Privacy is dead, and digital IDs are inevitable. Here's why. We live in a data-dependent world, and it's been that way for most of human history. In fact, civilizations that collected data and records of their people and their society as a whole were largely successful, thanks to the insight, intelligence, and information that data disclosed. And this goes for a lot of entities, even intelligence agencies like the CIA, KGB, Mossad, and MI6. The reason these agencies are so successful is because of their globalized networks of data collection and processing. So yeah, we live in a data-dependent, data-driven world that's becoming more and more digitized. Therefore, all forms of data that can be digitized will have a digital representation. And this goes for everything, not just people's IDs, because I can't think of anything that won't have a digital representation or equivalent. Even the sun and the moon will be digitized. No, I'm just joking. The world is transitioning into a digital civilization powered by AI, and those who adapt and proceed with caution and vigilance will be informed and will make better, insightful, and intelligent decisions. The nature of these decisions will sometimes be of a utopia and other times be of a dystopia world. But who cares, right? As long as these decisions are made by super fucking intelligence AI, the god. That's all that matters. Now, those who don't adapt and transition to this digital civilization, well, they'll just be or even misinformed, and they might even make some dumb fuckingly moronic and ignorant stupid decisions. So don't get me wrong, they'll have privacy, especially if they have an internet firewall and strict data protection laws. But this reluctance or failure to adopt and transition will make their access and participation in this new digital data-driven global civilization extremely difficult or possibly impossible. Okay, so in this first part, I wanted to explain the logic of these elites, corporations, and governments when it comes to data collection, and why this makes digital IDs inevitable. In the second part, I want to examine the flaws and vulnerabilities of this data-driven digital civilization. Obviously, the major flaw or fucked up thing about digital IDs is losing your privacy, independence, and freedom. Another massive flaw and vulnerability of digital IDs is energy availability, security, and sustainability. For example, these zettabytes of data being collected are mostly going to be stored in data centers that consume massive amounts of electricity, which results in electricity price hikes for ordinary people, households, and businesses. This enormous data collection and storage is going to need energy that's abundantly available and constantly accessible. And some of the world's energy infrastructure is extremely outdated and vulnerable to blackouts, sabotage, and damage, whether it's man-made or natural. So this makes me question how resilient and convenient is this digital ID infrastructure if, for example, there's a power outage. Now, one thing that's for certain about this digital ID energy infrastructure is that it's not going to be cheap to install, maintain, and secure. So this makes me question how quickly and efficiently can this costly energy infrastructure be restored after being destroyed by acts of war, terrorism, vandalism, or sabotage. And keep in mind that this digital ID infrastructure will be integrated with other important sectors of the economy and society. So this means a large part of everyday life will be disrupted while the digital ID infrastructure is being repaired, and these repairs might be very expensive and can take months to be fully completed and put back online. Or it could be years if you live in a country led by irresponsible, incompetent, negligent, and corrupt leaders. Another concern is how liable and vulnerable digital IDs are to cyber attacks, cyber hacks, and cyber wars. A very well-funded hacker or group of hackers can hack into the cloud digital ID infrastructure of a country or company and steal or alter data and information stored in a person's or possibly hundreds or thousands of people's digital ID profiles. And these compromised people can be anyone. It can be very important people or just ordinary average Joes. Okay, so those are just some of the concerns I have with digital IDs. Now let's get to who stands to benefit the most from this digital ID dystopia. Well, from my perspective, I think the top benefactors of this system are going to be governments and intelligence agencies, corporations, organizations, and rogue hackers. So, back in the day, most people consumed what they produced. But in today's globalized and monopolized economy, people are consuming less of what they produce. And in the near future, humans will be products and controlled consumers. So essentially, people will go from producers and consumers to products and controlled consumers. And all the top benefactors of this digital civilization, like governments, intelligence agencies, multinational corporations and organizations, along with rogue hackers, are going to gain more data, which gives them more insight, power, and control over people who are essentially products that these entities can study and observe to mine data and information out of, and then process and profile that data into products and services that they can later sell to you or rent to you. So it's like they stick you into this product consumer cycle or loop that you can't escape. And governments, along with corporations, can also use this data and information to create profiles of people that they categorize as good ones and bad ones, or the compliant and uncompliant citizens. And not only will they be mining data and information out of people, but they will also be feeding data and information into people as a form of psychological operations and cognitive warfare. And the most fucked up thing about this digital ID dystopia is these entities will have unbelievable access and insight into people's personal lives, making it possible for them to know people more than they know themselves. So normally and obviously, ordinary people will naturally have a problem with this digital ID dystopia. And I'm sure some people will fight, kick, and scream, but they will be fighting, kicking, and screaming while they are on their way to get a digital ID. This is just the next phase the world is moving into. And this new world will digitize most, if not everything. And entities that are pushing for these digital IDs will do everything they can to shove these digital IDs down people's throats. They'll use whatever tool, mechanism, false flag, or scare tactic they can to fool and manipulate people into adopting digital IDs. They'll divide, fragment, and disintegrate people by making life extremely difficult and inconvenient for ordinary people who reject and resist these digital IDs. And as they put pressure on people and make life harder for them, some people will crack under pressure and give in to this digital ID system. And these entities don't necessarily need to use pressure and intimidation or coercion in order to manipulate and force people to get digital IDs. They have the option to use kindness, convenience, and persuasion to manipulate and entice people into liking the idea of getting a digital ID. So look, it's like I said at the beginning of this video. We live in a data-dependent world, and it's been that way for most of human history. The world is transitioning into a digital civilization powered by AI, and those who adopt and adapt will have access to important information and insight. Those who don't will struggle to survive and keep up with this fast-paced AI-powered digital world. So in conclusion, privacy is dead. Long live surveillance. That's the motto of the surveillance police state of the future.